Welcome, you're watching Vox News, your daily news updates with Rita Kamkumo. Our headlines today: Tanzania's main opposition presidential candidate, Tundu Lissu, says he will not accept the result of Wednesday's election due to fraud. Zambia's ruling party fails in its bid for constitutional reforms that would have expanded President Edgar Lungu's powers. Former President Laurent Gbagbo warns that Ivory Coast is heading towards disaster in the upcoming presidential election. Our top story today: Tanzania's leading opposition presidential candidate Tundu Lissu declared on Thursday that he would not recognize the result of Wednesday's presidential election, in which incumbent John Magufuli is seeking a second term in office.
What happened yesterday is not an election. It is a fraud. It is an electoral fraud of a magnitude that is unprecedented in our entire history.
The opposition leader argued widespread irregularities, such as ballot box stuffing or polling agents being denied access to polling stations.
In many polling stations across the country, thousands of polling stations, our polling agents were deliberately frustrated, deliberately obstructed, and as a result were greatly delayed in entering the polling stations. We will not accept anything coming out of yesterday's voting because it was marred by irregularities at all stages. There has not been any observation of all the procedures that the law requires to be observed for the elections to be deemed to be free, fair, and credible. The results that have been announced since yesterday and that the Electoral Commission continues to announce today are therefore illegitimate results. They do not constitute, they do not express the true will of the Tanzanian people.
Lissu's claims were backed by influential bishop Emmaus Bandekile.
I, as a bishop, and all the other bishops that stand for justice, I declare openly that the elections held in Tanzania were not free and fair. And for those reasons, all those that will be declared as winners will lack the legitimacy of Tanzanians. In simple terms, the elections were a fraud. It's a coup d'etat.
Officials from the National Electoral Commission have denied allegations of irregularities. In neighboring Zambia, the ruling party's controversial bid to amend the constitution failed on Thursday. The proposed constitutional reforms would have expanded President Edgar Lungu's powers ahead of next year's elections. MPs failed to pass the bill, although legislators from the Patriotic Front gathered 105 votes, just 6 votes shy of the 111 needed. Opposition lawmakers, led by the United Party for National Development, did not attend the parliamentary session. Some critics argue that it would have been impossible to legally prevent Lungu from seeking a third term in the next presidential election scheduled for August 2021. In Ivory Coast, former Ivorian President Laurent Gbagbo is calling for dialogue ahead of the upcoming presidential election. In his first public statement since he was forced out in 2011, the former leader warned that his country is heading towards disaster in Saturday's election. In an interview broadcasted on Thursday on the French channel TV5 Monde.
A disaster. What awaits us is disaster. And that's why I'm talking, so that people know that I spoke, so that people know that I don't agree to go to any lengths towards this disaster, so that people will know that I say there were alternatives. Today, the cause of what is happening is the failure to respect fundamental law. It's not because candidates have been eliminated, but because the constitution has not been respected.
Incumbent President Alassane Ouattara's third-term bid in the upcoming election has caused deadly clashes across the country since August, when he announced that he was running again. His move was deemed illegal by the opposition and civil society representatives who argue that a third term goes against the spirit of the Ivorian constitution that sets a two-term limit for each president.
In the struggle that is being waged today around the third term, I, Laurent Gbagbo, former head of state, former prisoner of the ICC, am resolutely on the side of the opposition. I am resolutely on the side of the opposition. I think Africa must become more involved in the search for peace in the different African countries. We must remember that when there is a crisis in a country, it is mainly the fault of the leaders of that country. When I say leaders, both those in power and their opponents.
The former leader who gave the interview from Belgium, where he is awaiting the outcome of proceedings by the International Criminal Court, called for discussion to avoid yet another bloody political crisis. Meanwhile, in Ivory Coast, President Alassane Ouattara held his last rally on Thursday before the presidential election of the 31st of October.
He has a plan that can really help us. It's in relation to this plan that we are with Alassane Ouattara. It's not because he's from the north. No, he's someone who wants to help us.
For me, he has done a lot because we have peace in Ivory Coast. Since he came to power, there is peace in Ivory Coast. So he has done a lot for me. What he has done for the country, peace in Ivory Coast. I thank him, and our wish is that he wins in the first round with a knockout blow.
President Ouattara, who is hoping for a disputed third term in office, held his last rally in the capital Abidjan, despite the opposition's call for a boycott of Saturday's election. In Senegal, a report by the United Nations Migration Agency revealed on Thursday that about 140 migrants died last week in a shipwreck. It was the deadliest incident of its kind so far recorded this year. According to the International Organization for Migration, the ship was carrying about 200 migrants. The boat was sailing for Spain's Canary Islands, but caught fire a few hours after departing Mbour, a coastal city in western Senegal, and then capsized near Saint-Louis on the country's northwest coast. The Senegalese and Spanish navies and fishermen who were nearby reportedly managed to rescue 59 people and retrieve the remains of 20 others. In Libya, Muslim protesters rallied in the capital Tripoli on Thursday against comments made by French President Emmanuel Macron defending caricatures of the Prophet Mohammed. President Macron defended the right to mock religion following the murder of a French schoolteacher over nude cartoons of Prophet Mohammed he had shown in class, arguing that such caricatures are protected under freedom of expression in France.
Insulting the messenger of God Prophet Muhammad under the pretext of democracy is not considered democracy. Democracy is respecting the opinion of the other person without offending him. As for France, which claims democracy and claims that it has carried out a revolution to get rid of injustice and tyranny, honestly, we want to tell you that your statements are offensive to every Muslim Arab and to the whole world. The Arab League must take decisive action to withdraw French ambassadors to all countries so that Macron presents an apology to all Arab and Islamic countries.
Thursday's protest took place as Muslims around the world celebrated the birth of the Prophet Mohammed. In neighboring Tunisia, a few dozen people also demonstrated in Tunis on Thursday against the comments of the French President Emmanuel Macron on the cartoons of the Prophet Mohammed. The protesters gathered in the capital city but were surrounded by the police and could not access the Habib Bourguiba Avenue, located at the heart of the city center, where the French embassy in Tunisia is located. Meanwhile, in Tunisia, a project by residents of the city of Mahdia to make a mass exit by sea to Italy in protest at sanctions on their football club has been delayed on Thursday due to bad weather.
We have been in this situation for 14 days, which means that the fans of the Sheba team are in a state of anger. Let us all go to Italy and bring with us our youth and the players of the Sheba team, since this country forbids it from existing. This is why we decided to migrate collectively. Collective migration is no longer a choice, but we are forced to do so as it's our last attempt to protest and to show the authorities that we are serious. We demand serious intervention from their behalf. Are the officials in this country abiding by the law? We can clearly see that they are not. So they should not blame us for not respecting the law. We all intend to immigrate and we will do so when the weather conditions are good. So we do not risk the lives of our people.
The Tunisian Football Federation on the 17th of October announced a one-year ban on the CS Cheba Football Club, arguing an incomplete and late membership application. Meanwhile, on the football scene, the Confederation of African Football decided on Thursday to postpone the Champions League semi-final indefinitely due to the coronavirus pandemic. The Champions League semi-final return match between Egypt and Morocco, scheduled for the 1st of November, was cancelled after several Raja players tested positive for COVID-19, leaving only 10 players fit. The Confederation also announced the postponement of the finale, scheduled in Egypt on the 6th of November, until further notice. That's it for today. Thank you for watching Vox News.